Okay, everybody, we're about to start. All right, so welcome back. We will continue with the second session. This one to go back.
Doesn't really want to go back. Nope. How did it work?
All right, so attention please everybody. Let's get settled. We're about to start. So this is the second session of the APNIC First Security Track. We have 3 presentations in this session from Shadow Server Foundation, Team Phoenix, and Armories. So if everybody can take a seat, and if you want to chat, please feel free to go outside and have your chats. So without further ado, I would like to invite Piotr to present to do his presentation. Let's give him a round of applause, everybody.
Thank you. The mic is on? Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Adli, and thank you for the opportunity to present here. My name is Piotr Kijewski. I represent Shadow Server, a non-profit foundation, and I'll explain a bit more about us. And I'll talk a bit how we collaborate with the community to actually help with emerging critical remote code execution vulnerabilities that are unfortunately pretty common now out there and happening all the time and affecting quite a lot of organizations around the world, including in this region. So a few words about myself. So I have a technical background, a sysadmin background, and a national CSIRT background. I was one of the founders of the Polish CSIRT, CERT Polska, and I was there for many years before joining Shadow Server 8 years ago. I take part in quite a lot of various other non-profits like the Honeynet Project or the Cyber Peace Institute or DIVD, which is a Dutch-based hacker group. But most of my work is committed to Shadow Server and active participation in data collection, data sharing projects, and various takedowns. So a few words about Shadow Server, what it is and what it is we actually do. So we are a nonprofit. We are a US-based nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit, and a Dutch-based nonprofit, a stichting. So essentially two legal entities. Mission is simple but difficult at the same time, make the internet more secure for all. That is, we wanted to raise the baseline of cybersecurity. Over the years, I think we have significantly contributed to that. And we do that through sharing information with network defenders at no costs, right? So everybody that owns any internet assets like a domain name, an IP space, an autonomous system, they can come to us, provide us their IP ranges, their CIDR ranges, IPv4, IPv6 domain names, and anytime we find something related to their network, we will inform you, and what's best, we'll actually inform you for free with no obligations. We work a lot with national computer security incident response teams. We provide them data for whole countries, whole economies, so that is usually a very powerful tool for them to use. Essentially, we also work with anybody that owns any kind of network asset, as I mentioned. We also work closely with law enforcement agencies, especially in the US and in Europe, and security researchers worldwide as well. And we have about 5 primary services. The most basic one is attack surface monitoring and victim notification that we do all the time, every single day. And I'll explain what we do there. We also serve as large-scale internet-wide early warning about vulnerabilities and compromised assets. And quite a lot of organizations use that early warning as input into their own systems as well. We support law enforcement investigations. We do cyber capacity building projects, trainings on our data, and quite a lot of funded public benefit projects as well. So this is like a slide that shows who we actually serve, and the idea is basically to show that we actually serve everyone, right? from sectoral certs, ISAC, regional state governments, hospitals, healthcare sector, universities, NGOs, various underserved regions, critical infrastructure, internet service providers, airline, defense, all these kinds of industries, they actually use our feeds on a daily basis. So we are actually there to serve everyone that has any internet presence. How do we do that? There are actually a bunch of different things we do, but the most important things that we have, data, is related to these four sources. One is sinkholing. So we take part in a lot of sinkholing operations where we disrupt cyber attackers of various kinds, essentially, and we do so by seizing their domain names or otherwise command and control infrastructure, maybe through various routing tricks as well. And this is done with law enforcement, but also sometimes it's industry action. So many big cases like SolarWinds Sunburst, we have the sinkholes operating for this. Many other cases, like the recent case with Google, we helped take down an Android bad box 2 botnet that was around 8 million infections worldwide. And what we do is we actually monitor everybody that beacons into this command and control infrastructure. And then we send this information to parties that are responsible for cybersecurity of the networks where these IPs that are beaconing in and come from. So we can inform you where all the victims are. We also scan the internet. So if you know of services like Showdown or Census, we have our own equivalents. We can scan basically the internet on a specific service in a couple of minutes. And that applies both to IPv4 and IPv6. And we do so with IPv6 by having a prepared target list of IPs that we know are actually being used. So this gives us pretty good visibility in general for many vulnerabilities that are out there. And we scan across hundreds of different services. And we do so every 24 hours, right? So we can identify things that are exposed unnecessarily, things that are vulnerable, things that are compromised, and we inform you if we find it in your network. And quite a bit of the presentation today will focus on the scanning. We'll talk about also sensors. We run thousands of sensors, over 3,000 sensors worldwide that essentially pretends to be vulnerable devices, especially edge devices or common devices that are exposed on the internet. So things like routers, firewalls, different kinds of web services from different vendors. So like Citrix, Cisco, Palo Alto, all these, we try to emulate these devices so that attackers, when they try to look for targets, sometimes they can be fooled by our honeypots and attack our honeypots, and then we know where the attackers are coming from and what kind of exploits they are trying to use. We also have sandboxes and large malware repositories, so about over 2 billion now. Malware samples in total by hash. So when we collect 1 million by hash every single day, unique by hash. So that's quite sizable as well. And we execute a lot of that in our own sandboxes. So essentially we have our own internal VirusTotal that is completely separate from everybody else's infrastructure. So using this data as the basis, we create our feeds and provide assistance to CSIRTs and law enforcement. And unlike most of the industry, we have a different sharing model where we actually share only to parties that are responsible for a specific network. So we don't give you third-party data. We're not going to tell like Canada about data in the US and vice versa. The same here, Malaysia, Thailand, they'll all be separate channels, right? Malaysia will get data from Malaysia, Thailand will get data from Thailand. If you're an ISP, you will get data only for your networks, ISP networks, so not your competition. So we share data in a responsible manner. We don't sell it, we don't expose it. So we kind of like use this model to act as a trusted third party. Anybody can share data through us, and we have the channels to essentially reach nearly all the internet defenders around the world. And most of our data is actually technical in nature. It's pretty low level in the sense that we talk about specific IPs that have some kind of problem, like a vulnerability or a compromise, or are infected with something, or essentially unnecessarily exposed. So we talk about IPs, URLs, hashes, malware, maybe specific threat actors if associated with a technical exploitation methods. That's the kind of like detection level kind of things that we are sharing. We don't really go much into strategic, tactical, or operational threat intelligence. It's only on a case-by-case basis. Most of the early data sets that we share are pretty low level and meant for SOC staff or incident responders as such. And what we do, that's kind of like the basic free product, is what we call network reporting, where we take all the problems we see on the internet on a given day, and we package them into separate feeds. Each of these feeds, which we call reports, are actually have a different structure to them, a different format, both all CSV based or JSON based, where we specify different fields for different problems that we are reporting. So for example, if we're talking about telnet servers that are unnecessarily exposed or are vulnerable, we use a different format than that will inform you about a network infection of a certain kind, like in an Android device, right? There'll be different specifications, right? And currently around 201 national certs that cover 175 countries and territories get our data, and close to 10,000 other organizations, from ISPs to hospitals to banks, universities, they sign up to us directly. So you can be notified using our data, both from your national certs, your ISP, or we can actually give data directly to you. There are like different possibilities of getting our data. And to get you to maybe better understand the scale of what we share with the entire planet, we share 1 billion events every single day, every 24 hours. 1 billion events regarding some kinds of security issues are being shared. Many of them are just informational about an exposed service, which may be something you want or maybe something you don't want. And probably around like maybe a couple of % are just like critical things, but the scale is around 1 billion every single day. So it's quite a big infrastructure that is there in place to actually give you the data. And to show you the data, well, you can also visualize the data by having a look at the data center that we have. So this is our data center in California, where, like you can see, it's like fully professional, like nearly 70 racks of machines, 1,100 servers or thereabouts, right? So it's quite a large shop by any standards, and we are just 30 people, 30, right? So we have quite a big, but we are sitting on a large pile of data, and probably the value of equipment in there is probably around $40 million originally, right? So that's how much money you have to actually start something, an operation like this, right? Coverage, we see ourselves kind of like as global plumbers, but we are global plumbers of information, essentially. So we try to make sure that our mission is really to make sure that the right information reaches the right network defender at the right time. That's basically the most basic kind of thing that we want to achieve. And the countries in green are the ones whose governments get our data, of course, only for their country, right? And many of these countries, like the UK, for example, or Germany, have their own systems for essentially ingesting our data and then having like a mini shadow server kind of setup within their own countries, where they have local organizations also subscribe to them, which means that essentially our information reaches hundreds of thousands of organizations around the world every day for free. To give you an idea of the scale of our coverage, this is more or less like by autonomous system owners. How many autonomous system owners by continent get our data in terms of IP space size, so the advertised IP space size. So you can see that like in Europe, 69% of IPs are covered by our data directly. So this is bypassing the national cert. North America is 76%, Oceania 73%, so which is quite good, but there are like a few bigger providers that actually get our data. Africa 47, South America 41, Asia 30%. So there is room for improvement in the region. So we're always looking for entities that can subscribe to our feeds directly at the autonomous system level. But you can, of course, also just provide your IPs or domains. That is also something that can happen. For ASN owners, the stats are actually much better than on average with Asia, because we have like 70% of the IP space covered. And that is because we have like 230 of essentially the top autonomous system by size subscribed. But there are about 7,000 more that do not get our data directly. These are usually the smaller providers that usually also have the weaker capacity in terms of dealing with incidents. We have a dashboard where all our data is published, kindly sponsored by the UK government, where all our data is published, but in the form of stats, right? So it's not actually raw IPs, but you can actually have a look at what we see in every country in the world, down to a province, in terms of our sinkholing data, scan data, honeypot data, DDoS data, industrial control system breakdown, CVE exposure, compromised devices, exploitation frameworks. It's all out there. And any stats that I'll be showing today, you can actually look them up by yourself. And we even have this translated into various languages also from the region. And that does include Thai and Vietnamese, for example, Malaysian as well, Indonesian, and many others, Chinese, Mandarin as well. So what we do as a kind of like one of the more noticeable services is that if you look into your firewalls, you'll always find everyday queries from Shadow Server there, because we scan absolutely everything. We have a goal to fingerprint everything on the planet and have a full exposure breakdown essentially every day, so we can actually track how the internet changes. And we have the whole history of the internet like 10 years back when we started. And we use these scans to basically identify any devices that are out there, the vendor, the product, the versions, and then we also try to identify like vulnerabilities, remote code executions, if they are possible or not. We always do this in an ethical manner. So we actually never exploit anything, but we only go down as deep as possible to, without exploitation, to actually understand if a device is vulnerable or not. If we are unable to determine this without exploitation, then we don't attempt any exploitation of any kind. But a lot is possible without actually doing that. And this is what we do in all the time in 24-hour cycles. So whenever there is a new vulnerability that is a remote code execution vulnerability or can be chained with other vulnerabilities to achieve remote code execution, we try to implement a scan within like 24 hours, basically. And often we do. So we are one of the faster responders on the internet to new kinds of like vulnerability crises that tends to appear now essentially every single day. So these are like some considerations for vulnerability scans, just to give you a general idea. I'm not going to go through this. There isn't really much time for it as such. But the point is really that it's not actually easy to determine whether a remote device is actually vulnerable to an attack or not, because also the vendors make it more and more difficult for external parties to be able to determine that. But there is a whole field emerging into essentially how to quickly implement these kind of scans. And we work quite a lot with the community, with national CSIRTs together, to come up with new ways to implement remote detection of vulnerable devices, right? So it's a challenge in itself. So as I said, we never actually exploit anything as such. That is really important to understand, because we do not accept the liability. And of course, it's a criminal offense in many countries, but unlike many others, we never try to cross any red lines. So these are kind of like our rules. So in general, our messaging to the community is that if you have a new scan that you would like implemented or search for a new vulnerability, we are happy to help, and we can work with you to do that entirely for free without any constraints, providing we can implement it and share out the results with the community, and providing it doesn't involve any exploitation. So very happy to collaborate here, and some of the examples I'll go into in a few minutes are also related to collaboration of this type that led to results. The other side is also interesting, and regarding remote code execution vulnerabilities is actually tracking who is doing the scanning and who's doing the attacking, right? So we actually operate a huge honeypot sensor network, around 3,000 sensors around the world, out of which around 300 are in ASEAN and maybe 30 or so are also actually in Vietnam here. So it's a large network that enables us to essentially roll out any kind of honeypots in a matter of moments across 1,000 data centers or so around the world. So we developed a full framework for that. And that's what we use to detect many new attacks, right? So we can pretend to be a Cisco device, a Palo Alto device, a Microsoft SharePoint instance, whatever we want in a matter of minutes, once we implement the code. And you can actually see the types of exploited vulnerabilities that we track by visiting our dashboards and selecting the exploited vulnerabilities category and monitoring to see all the CVEs we see being exploited at a given point in time. And this also actually contributes to the US CISA non-exploited vulnerability catalog from time to time. So the KEV list and also a bunch of other private lists. And includes first EPSS. So if you're using EPSS anywhere in your platform or any known KEV list to prioritize vulnerability management in your organization, it is likely that some of the data originally actually came from us to enable you to do your job. Thanks to that, we are also recognized by some organizations like VulnCheck here as the earliest reporter of exploitation in the wild. So Shadow Server, surprisingly, which we're a small organization, but with a lot of data, we seem to be ahead of much of the industry in terms of detecting vulnerabilities being exploited in the wild first. So I think this is like one of our has become one of our basic services and unique quote selling points, even though we don't sell anything, but something that you should really consider. If you're missing our feeds, then it's probably worth getting. And all our data here can be improved if you also host a sensor for us, which is a low spec sensor in terms of requirements, but something that will really help us with providing you data and the community data in a better manner. So please consider that as well. So to go quickly through some example case studies, as I spent quite a bit of time, we respond with the community to the latest CVEs, so like Citrix, Cisco, iOS, Fortinet, Ivanti, Palo Alto, SharePoint recently that had a lot of compromises also here in the region, and the ASEAN as such as well. And we work with the community and national certs to identify vulnerable instances, compromised instances, any instances beaconing out or trying to attack others as a result of these compromises so that they get shut down as quickly as possible. So for example, I'll just go quickly through this. Cisco iOS bad candy, so like infections around Cisco iOS XE web interfaces that started in October. That was 2023 actually. The way we act is once something is published, like in this case, active exploitation of Cisco devices, we immediately start to conduct scans if we have the information on how to do that. So we immediately started scanning for compromised devices. We were able to identify over 32,000. In this case, immediately the day after Cisco published their advisory. Moving further along, we were able to roll out a honeypot profile pretending to be a Cisco iOS device. We detected first scans trying to detect implants on these Cisco devices. We saw attackers updating implants. Cisco was publishing updates on these on the vulnerability and implants that were installed as a result of these attacks, and then we immediately started updating our scans. So things work pretty fast in terms of these kinds of incidents, and the attackers respond, and we respond along with the community. So you can see here how many Cisco devices were compromised worldwide, 40,000, right? And you can see the gaps here where the Cisco attackers were updating their implants to make detection by us impossible. So it stopped working, and we had to adapt to the new update of an implant, right? Now, some of this is actually attributed to one of the typhoon actors. So just to go quickly here, just to show you how attacks starts. Once, like, for example, the POC was published, the spike is in the types of attacks that were happening against Cisco devices. And here you can see like the entire history up till recently, right? That there are still like 20-something thousand Cisco implants out there. So a lot of devices actually remain compromised, remain in the region. And basically also here in Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, lots of Cisco devices compromised by what is now attributed to be essentially one of the known APT state actor. Palo Alto, similar case recently. Unfortunately, I have to go quickly through this as I have quite a bit of slides. So just to go quickly, examples of Palo Alto, right? There was a vulnerability in Palo Alto management instances from PAN-OS. So we got a tip-off early that there was a vulnerability, and we were able to quickly implement a scan to fingerprint all the management instance devices around the world, 10,000, over 10,000. And we were able to work together with Palo Alto to get these numbers down in a couple of weeks to just a percentage by collaborating with them and with the national CSIRT community. Maybe quickly go through this to have some more time. But basically, you can look at the history of the whole slides and a timeline day by day of how we responded to various changes and different publications that were going out and different types of attacks. And you could see that basically 10 days after, we were able to actually start scanning properly for devices that were vulnerable. So we first started by talking about exposed management instances, and then we managed to whittle it down to which of them are actually vulnerable and work both with Palo Alto and the community to bring these down to a small level. So thanks to that, hopefully we saved quite a lot of people out there. There was also like artifacts that were being left for compromised devices, and we used our honeypots to identify what attackers were searching for once they compromised devices. And we were able to find like various artifacts on various devices that showed signs of compromise, and were able to alert on this, right? So you could see here exposed management devices over time in ASEAN, like Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, were most affected. Indonesia as well. We could start tracking vulnerable instances, and initially most were in Thailand and Singapore, and you can see how the numbers changed over time. And then you could track also compromised instances. So we were able to broadcast this information to the community very, very quickly after essentially all the incidents started and occurred. And you can see how fast or how slow the community responds to making these kinds of fixes. And we still find like some devices compromised like a year after nearly, right? It's never fixed. So some people don't care. So that was a whirlwind tour of what we can do, right? But essentially the key takeaways before I wrap up. We are a free service. We are there to help give you data about what's a potential threat to your network, mostly through informing you about vulnerabilities and any compromised assets. It's a free service. If you haven't signed up, please do. It's minimal formalities to do so. But we can also go like a step further. And for those of you who have worked with us already for a while, we are very happy to help you more, right? In the sense that if you can tell us about a vulnerability or a compromised device and how to scan for it, like I was talking of web shells earlier, we love scanning for web shells. You tell us where the web shell is, we can actually scan the entire internet within 5 minutes to tell you where all the other web shells are, right? So we can help each other this way by, not just us broadcasting information to you, but also you coming back to us and telling us about certain things that you know better, because these will be the things that affected you and your devices. So you have the visibility that we'll never have. So if you ever receive a report from us, please act. If you believe a report is false positive, please tell us so. And yeah, we're always very happy to help and collaborate in any way. If you have any questions, I think we've run out of time. So please come later to ask. I'll be here today and tomorrow, and I also have stickers to give out. So if you like this free Shadow Server sticker, please consider asking me a question or just coming up to chat. Thank you.
Yes. Hello. Yep. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, we don't have time for question, but let's see if we finish a bit early when we can come back and ask question at the end. So one more time, a round of applause for Piero. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Shamim Reza from Team Phoenix. His presentation is The Network is the Battlefield. So let's give him a round of applause. You want
Yeah. Everything's good. Everything's good. Everything's good. Okay. I have a very bad reputation of going beyond my allowed time. So let me start my stopwatch. So we have talked about a few advanced topic in our first session. I'll take you to the very basic that we often overlooked, which is network, and what do we understand when we talk about network security. So let's assume this Froma resort has a central gate, and it has been locked up. But inside this resort, every single room has no wall and only curtain. No room, no gate, no window, only a curtain, and that has been covered by or for every single room. So how would it look? Definitely, your privacy will not be there, isn't it? So that is what we have faced whenever we work with for service provider and also for enterprise network in South Asian region. So this talk is basically inspired by an event that we encountered 2 years back, which is it was a largest manufacturer company in Bangladesh. They used to do business more than 1 million within a week. So they are pretty big in compared to the economy of Bangladesh. And they were ransomware on the very big event, which is the first day of Bangla New Year, which is Navabarsho. So I got a call, and we visited their place. We interviewed the CXOs, the IT team, also the security team. And what we have seen in summary is they have EDR in place. They have next-gen firewall in place. They also have compliance supported by ISO 27K that has been regularly improved and monitored. But their security team is not well aware of their infrastructure. And the fun part was, in spite of having all those tools and applications in place, they didn't have a proper inventory. So after that event, we found out that one of their Windows server has been dismantled 1 year back. It is written on their ISO 27K registry, but they haven't cut it out from their infrastructure, and the RDP port was open. And the fun part is one of their security guy who has resigned almost 6 months before that event. Uh, Actually, he was the guy who did it. So the password hasn't been changed, and the RDP server was connected with internet. And it took us almost 1 week to get the actual network log, in spite of there are so many tools over there, but that hasn't been monitored. So yeah, today's talk is based on taking you to the very ground that we often overlooked, which is the network. And my fight, not only with the enterprise, but also with the service provider, to let them understand that no matter what you are doing, you have to maintain the basic. So this is me, Shamim Reza. I have worked for the largest ISP in Bangladesh for over 12 years, and I'm also helping and connect with APNIC as their community trainer. I also help one of the Japanese cybersecurity provider as their CXO for more than 4 years. And the fun part is I just crossed my teenage of career. So I am now 18 plus. So can I have a big round of applause? Yeah, thank you. So I am also helping Wazoo as their global ambassador. So if you need any support or any help on that term, please feel free to connect with me. Currently, I am working with my own initiative that has been founded in 2016, but I have been dedicating my full time since last year as the founder. We are heavily working on capacity building, focusing on South Asia, not only for Bangladesh, but all the countries for South Asia. And also we are conducting some research on network layer for security enhancement, no matter what infrastructure you have. And we are also helping businesses to secure their infra. Now, let's come to the point that when we talk about security, and in my experience, in more than 80% of the organization I have visited, most of them don't have any updated infra at all. So their infrastructure has been designed almost a decade ago. They don't even have any specific inventory. Those who have inventory, that is just a Excel file, and that hasn't been updated. In few cases, we conduct a red team activity with the consent of the authority to find out the loopholes they might have. I also will be talking about a few regional threat paths that we have been monitoring from last few years. And also I will give you some basic recommendation that nobody is maintaining at all. Yes, as I mentioned that most of the enterprise in South Asia, they don't have a updated network design. Whenever we ask for the inventory, they couldn't come to us within just 1 month. And I am not sure why the heck it took them 1 month to get us their network design and inventory. So that is the main problem. If you don't know what you have, how can you monitor and how can you protect? So that's the question I have been asking everyone, and I didn't get a proper answer. Another thing is when we are talking about network security, we only focus on the perimeter and the firewall, the UTM, and so on. We never monitor the internal movement whatsoever. So that is another problem we have seen, and that is why the legacy network defense is failing. If we get back to statistics in APAC region, almost 98% of the breaches uh, connected with the external threat actor, but more than 35 of the breaches is conducted by the internal asset any organization have. And if we see the data breach statistics from Mandiant, which has been published in 2024, near about 70% of the data breach has been connected with the stolen credentials. So like if we see the statistics of password, the weak password we have been using, it has been the same in last 10 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, name of the page, date of birth, mobile number, girlfriend, boyfriend name, and so on. So we haven't been updated ourselves on that part, and that is taking more than 70% of the cyber attack in APAC region. Another thing is whenever any internal asset has been compromised, it take on average near about 50 minutes to get into the whole system, and it takes almost minimum 11 days to be detected with the UTM or firewall or any measure any organization might have. So what can we do on that part? Before we get into that part, let us talk about more on the security gap we have in network layer. So definitely the credential for switch and router is by default in most of the cases we have seen. We have also seen that the SNMP name is in plain text, so which is also allowing the attacker to get all the information a network infrastructure might have. We also have seen there are people are less interested to monitor their network traffic. So it can be inbound, it can be outbound, whatever it is, they are less interested to monitor the network traffic and whatsoever they might have. And also people think about working with VLAN is giving them more segmentation into their network infrastructure, which is another lie. So these are the security gap we have seen. Another thing, whenever we are talking about network security in network operations community, we have seen that people are interested to talk about only manners, ROI, ROA, and RPKI. Yes, definitely it is a mandatory and it is a necessary. You cannot go without it, but this is not enough. This is just a simple portion of your network security you will be working on. Another thing is, yes, people are considering VLAN as their true isolation, and also we need to think about beyond the statistics. So the statistics says that most of the attacker doesn't look for the 0 days all the time. More than 97% attacker are working with very basic ways, and they spend more time inside your infrastructure, get to know your asset, get to know your value, and they perform their cyber attack. If we see the cyber attack in Orange, Spain last year, yes, their outcome was really terrific, but it started from a simple password credential compromise. So yeah, it doesn't help them to get out of the scenario. So one of their agent password has been compromised, and via that their BGP traffic has been hijacked. So yeah, frankly speaking, these are the thing let us consider, and also gives us the avenue to think that cybersecurity is a holistic measure, and it's a lifestyle. You cannot only depend on the compliance. You cannot only depend on some defensive measures, but you have to think like an attacker to find out the flaws in your defensive measure. This comparison gives you a bare minimum idea that what can we get from RPKI, ROA, and manners, and what we cannot get. There are so many attack that has been performed in the network layer. Definitely OSPF injection, ARP spoofing, rogue DHCP server, DHCP starvation, data exfiltration via ping, HTTPS, DNS, and so on. Definitely there is a misconfiguration as well, unauthorized lateral access into your asset, and so many things. So the last row is giving you an idea what can you do to mitigate and to perform an action against these attacks. So there are so many tools in respect to those. Please spend some time into Google and find out those tools. Maximum of them are open source. Please validate those before you impose it into your infra. Uh, this is another story that we are well aware of. FireEye Red Team Tools has been stolen, and it gives us the idea that we should not limit ourselves to think about our internal asset, and that asset is connected with us. There is an attack called supply chain, and we need to think about that seriously. Let's assume that this resort has an external supplier for water, the water bottle we are using and drinking the water. And they have been compromised, and some bad things has been blended with the water. And Furuma does not, let's assume that Furuma does not have any assessment onto the water. They does not have any checklist to properly assess this water. And we are consuming it. Within few hour or day, we might have upset stomach. So what does it mean? Definitely Furoma should not be accused to do so, but it is their business reputation. So that will definitely affect their services as well, not only inside the Vietnam, but also outside of Vietnam. So we also think about the supply chain attack as well. Those third parties, they are giving us the service, they're providing us the solution. We need to think about that as well. As Peter mentioned about Shadow Server Foundation, they are giving all the information regarding all the third-party vendor, whether it is a tech giant or not. Definitely, you should sign up your organization and connect with those info as well. This is a very niche statistics. Frankly speaking, I have shared this talk in Bangladesh at first, and then I get into NPNOG Nepal this year, and I have showed them that in spite of what we are doing, we are not doing good at all. If you can see, the first row is representing DNS amplification attack, and I have started working on OpenDNS server from 2021. That time we had almost 50,000 of OpenDNS resolver, and all of them are working as a pure OpenDNS resolver. We have been we tried to connect with the ISPs for those specific IPs. We initiated few activity. We shared the best practices to them, but eventually, after just 4 or 5 years, now the OpenDNS resolver of Bangladesh has increased from 50,000 to 100,000. So, and when we dig deep into those statistics, we have found more than 95% of the ISP IP belong to MikroTik router, and the ISPs and the service provider, the enterprise network, those who are deploying those MikroTik router into their infra, they are using the default configuration and default features. They are not practicing any best practice or basic cyber hygiene. So if we get into the next slide, we can see the same statistics for Nepal as well, DNS amplification attack. So why we are focusing on that particular part? yes, those who are working in network or cybersecurity or system, you know that if we run dig space any domain name and specify any option like without any MX or A or NS record, it will give us a 65 to 70 or 80 bytes of info. But if we change that option to any, it will eventually give us with a response of 1500 bytes. So you can imagine the amplification of that response. So to perform a DNS amplification attack, we we should not have to change. We should not have to change the DNS packet or so on. Just use any, and we can see the amplification over there. For Vietnam, the situation is a bit different, but it is almost the same. In our engagement with few enterprise in South Asian region, we have conducted few red team activity, and via that we have founded few specific TTPs that can be utilized to explore the network and exploit the network without any vulnerability and without any specific exploit, like the vulnerability of any product itself. So these are the things. If you want to conduct any assessment into your infra, you can use these TTPs and also the common tools that can help you to perform this attack into your infra. The story I have told at the beginning of my talk about the largest manufacturer in Bangladesh, we conducted this red team use case over there. We started with a rogue DNS server and managed to get all the DNS traffic via our platform. And then we also eventually get access to their infra. Why? The reason was their production network and also their office network was going out from the same firewall and router. There was no segmentation whatsoever. So this is what we have been telling, that if your production and office network is in the same design, you will definitely get into the trouble. As I mentioned, we did not use any known exploit or any exploit whatsoever. We just use a rogue DNS DHCP server and managed to get into the system. Definitely, if you want to perform this same activity into your system and want to get into more detection and analytics domain, just search for unknown DHCP IP. You should have enable the DHCP authentication or MAC authentication whatsoever you can have. You can use tools like Zeek, or you can export the NetFlow data. You can also check for a short TTL or mismatch A record into the DNS query. And you can also check for the MAC address and IP address that are not registered into your inventory. When I talked with Adley 10 years back, he's one of the core statement was definitely prevention and protection is ideal, but detection is a must. So, and to do so, you need to know the offense to work on the best part of your defense. And to do so, for the detection engineering, for the layer 2, you can work with the ARP Watch and definitely Zeek to export all the spam traffic, to detect all the spoofing activity inside your network. For the layer 3, yes, work with NetFlow and ACL log. For layer 4, work with Suricata along with the traffic signature. And definitely for layer 7, there is an advanced part of Zeek, which is Zeek scripting, and via that you can work with advanced cyber attack as well. These are the tools all of them are open source. You can utilize and work on these. Definitely, Z can help you with the span traffic. Suricata with the IDS IPS. If you are familiar with Wireshark, there is a tool for your infrastructure which is Archime. Also, if you want to work with your network inventory and validation, please check out Netbox, Nmap, and also Batfish. That will definitely help you work in a much better way. And also, there are few NAC that you can utilize for your infra. This is a very minimum recommendation to practice for your infra. Try to do it quarterly, try to perform the red team activity, find out the vulnerabilities into your infra, check out all the options are available, and please try to monitor your network traffic. That is mandatory, no matter what you are doing. Yes, there are so many ways to work on that. For the protection, detection, and prevention, DNS RPZ is the least minimum way you can work on, and it will definitely help you from 87 to 93% of cyber attack. Those are using DNS as their malware attack for your infra. And also keep your system and application and asset regularly updated, and so on. Lastly, this is my experience in last 18 years that if your network is flat, security is a fantasy for you. So don't go look for security if your network is flat. If you don't know anything about your asset, your IT asset or infrastructure asset. These are the reference you can check out, and the slides is available in APNIC dashboard. You can download it and go through. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ping me anytime, email me, or anything as such. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shamim Bhai. In the interest of time, we have to proceed to the next presenter. I'd like to invite Keisuke Kamata from Armoris to do his presentation. Let's give him a round of applause. You want to?
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Adri, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about our activities. So today I'm going to talk about one of our projects. My name is Keisuke Kamata from Armoris. Our company is just a wait. Our company is focusing to develop like a cybersecurity specialist. So we provide various different types of the trainings, exercise, seminars, workshop, and those things. And one of the most important thing we believe is how we grow the trainers, not only the specialists. So because we see a lot of the shortage of the cybersecurity expertise, and we need to focus more on how we expand the people who can actually train the people. So introducing myself, I have 24 years in experience in cybersecurity, and my career has started in 2002. And one of my first training experience as a trainer was together with Adri, sitting there in 2006 or 7 in Cambodia, maybe, I think. Yeah, so so I have like 18 years experience of providing training to various different people, especially in Asia Pacific region. So then after around 2008, I have been working with JICA, that is Japanese government agencies, focusing on providing official development assistance to developing countries, and we conducted various different cybersecurity professional training projects. And then in 2014, I worked with Japanese financial institutions to establish Financials Isaac Japan, that is Japanese financial institutions cybersecurity community to exchange knowledge and information. Also, they are training each other. Currently we have around like 430 members, financial institutions, member of Financials Isaac Japan, and we actively exchange the information everyday basis. And also I take some advisor role to Japanese financial regulator and one of the Japanese police. And I also do the CTO of Armoris in Japan. So one of the information I would add here, go to next slide. Doesn't work. Okay. Okay, so in this presentation, I will introduce one of our projects. So as you know, like our cyber threats worldwide is rising, and this is actually same in 20 years, and limited local resources and reliance on external experts. This is also same in 20 years actually, and the need for sustainable self-sufficient resilience capability. This is also we have been saying in these 20 years. So I will explain more details of our project. So our project I'm going to introduce to you today is something we call cyber range and tabletop hybrid exercise train the trainer. So there are many different types of the exercise available around the world, and when we do some technical hands-on exercise, we usually provide like a logs or PCAP files and ask the participants to do the analysis from the technical viewpoint. And also there is another type of the exercise, something we call tabletop, is more focusing on the discussions for the real world matters. So I realize if we see what happens in the real world when we see like cyber incident happens, what we see is we need to working both on the like a technical matters like reading logs, packet analysis, and identify the root cause of the vulnerability exploitation and the other things. So those kind of the technical activities together with like a management activities, how we interact with like a public audience or media or government. So those management matters are usually simulated on the tabletop exercise. So we identified one of the very effective way of doing exercise and mixing the technical hands-on exercise that we call cyber range exercise, and together with a tabletop exercise so that the people can understand what is the reality in the world of the incident handling. And this project is as a part of the JICA project. So main goal of this project is building the local leaders in the countries of targeted countries. And in this project, we targeted three countries: Indonesia, Cambodia, and the Philippines. And Cambodia, Philippines, we targeted government agency, and Indonesia was a University of Indonesia, and some of the youngsters who has a technical experiences. So the duration of this project runs in 2014 October to 2025 April. So this exercise overview is something like this. So in the middle of this slides, maybe we have, okay. So in the middle of the slide, we have like something we call cyber range environment. That is a network and the systems like web applications, Windows Active Directory environment. We simulate it looks like actual corporate environment. And on the left side of the slide, we see red team. The red team conducts the cyber attack to the environment. So that is a technical part of this exercise. And also, if the real cyber attack happens, maybe the red team, the attacker, conduct attack to the web application or corporate intranet systems, and maybe the virus infection happens, or maybe web defacement happens. That is a technical aspect. But please imagine if, for example, the web defacement happens, what will be happening in the real world, not in the technical world. So in the real world, someone will identify the web defacement, and maybe if the customer identify that, customer notify to the company, or if media identify that, media will make a news about this company website was defaced or something like that. So that we need to handle that kind of the real world situation together with the technical matters. So our cyber range and tabletop hybrid exercise is doing, like we developed the actual, the corporate systems, web applications or internet environment and mimic the cyber attacks, like using the various different cyber attack tools. And together with tabletop exercise, scenario comes from the technical scenarios of the cyber range environment. So these projects had different steps. The first, we had like something we call pre-training for 2 months. This is actually, we give the participants homework and ask them to finish the homework before the step number 2. And in the step number 2, we had like a train the trainer session, part 1 and part 2. So part 1 is more like the participants will take a time to develop and set up their own cyber range environment. So they experience setting up from the set up the network, set up the servers, applications, set up the intranet by Windows servers. So they all create all the environment they will use in the cyber range, cyber attack exercise. And the number 3 the trainer session is after they create T3 session, they will conduct actual exercise by separating the participants into 2 different teams, red team and blue team. And so red team conduct attack to the cyber range environment, and blue team will take a time to do the log analysis and packet analysis, so the incident response activities. So then after they experience number 1, number 2, number 3, then they become the trainer and conduct actual training, the exercise in each countries of themselves. So the number 1 of the pre-training, we actually, the purpose of this pre-training is like making sure all the participants have the basic skills so that they can build their own network, like setting up IP address, DHCP servers, setting up the routers, switches, and also they need to install the Linux operating system, set up web servers, mail servers, DNS servers, and also set up like a Windows Active Directory environment so that they can create an intranet environment. So that kind of the all of basic fundamental skills we require to do this exercise trainer. So we wanted to take like 2 months for making sure that all of the participants can do everything what we require. So then we moved on to the trainer sessions. We called all the participants come into the one place, actually in Indonesia, and then ask them to set up their environment and conduct the cyber attack. And also after the conducting attack, they do the defense side, the log analysis, packet analysis, and other like incident analysis activities. So this is the diagram we provided for the participants so that they can set up the cyber range environment. This is quite simple. The most simple environment we consider as the cyber range. And then it's like there is firewall IDS, and there is a DNS server, web server, proxy servers, and also Windows server with Windows client. And on the left side of the slide, we can see that laptop with the name of attack. So attack laptop, we will be using the Kali Linux, and the attackers can conduct attack to the web servers running the web application and using some APT methodologies to the Windows environment so that they can do the scenarios. So in this training session, we provided 2 different scenarios. First one is APT. So we just follow the very much of the basic advanced persistent threat scenarios. So starting from number 1 to number 9. And then one of the most important thing of creating scenario is if we create the attack scenario, we always make sure that the defense side, the blue team side, can verify all of the attacking activities. They can verify by reading logs or PCAP files. So because some of the attacks, in some cases, we can create some scenarios that Blue team can never identify the details of the timeline of the attack. But because this is a cyber range training environment, we are always taking care so that all of the attacking activities can be recorded on the logs or packet in the network. So this is a second scenario that we call the web shell scenario. This is targeting the web application vulnerability exploitation, and then doing some scanning first and exploiting and taking the root privilege of the Linux servers and deploy the web shell and using the web shell remotely to conduct maybe the like a database dumping, and then steal all of the personal information stored on the web application servers. So this is another scenario we provided for the students. So they create all the network environment, servers, operating systems, and also web applications, everything we provide, and they set up, they conduct the attack by themselves. And after attacking by themselves, they conduct like an incident investigation by themselves by reading logs or PCAP files. So this is a picture of the participants who take the train the trainer course, and they were really happy after 2 weeks training. And also another important part of this exercise is how we design the scenario. So I talked already mostly about like a technical scenarios on the left side of the slide. That is more like a SQL injection or like a command and control, or maybe some virus infections, or those kind of the technical scenarios I already talked about. But the more important thing of this hybrid exercise, how we develop what I call is business scenarios. So if, for example, if there is any SQL injection and personal information leakage happens, what happens in the real world? Maybe CEO will be upset, or maybe head of IT will be almost dying, or something like that happens. So we need to think about, if this technical scenario happens, what will be happening in the real world, like CEO, or maybe the regulators, government, media, customers. So those people will do something for that kind of situation. So thinking about the business scenario is important part to do this exercise. And this is kind of the example of the scenario development. For example, for the technical scenario, we do like a scanning, SQL injection, information leakage, and maybe attacker publish the leaked information on the dark web. And in the business side, what can be happen? Just one case is maybe one of the customer to the company identify their information is leaked on the dark web, and they will contact the company to tell that our information is leaked and on the published on the dark web. So the company need to respond to that kind of customers' inquiries, and then to answer to that company, maybe the cybersecurity team need to identify if it is really happening or not. They need to download the data from dark web and identify if the information is really what they have or not, and then respond to the customers. And how we respond to the customers, how we explain to them, and also maybe in some cases, media will identify the same thing, and they will create a news talking about that. So also, in that kind of cases, we need to talk to the top management, to telling them that what is happening and explain to them. And sometimes the top management need to do the press conference to explain what is happening to the world. So this kind of the technical aspect and the business aspect, we think it's always be connected, and thinking both sides together is really important to understand the real world cyber attack response. And another case is, so when we do the developing the technical scenarios, we always use some kind of the vulnerability that is already known, because 0 day, it is not easy to find a new vulnerability to do the cyber range environment. So for the beginner level purpose, we always choose some specific old vulnerabilities for the cyber range environment, and implement the web application or servers, and identify the proof of concept codes to exploit, and set up the lab environment and test the POC code if it works, and we make sure that all of the attacking can be traced by reading logs or packet capture PCAP files. And also the think about business scenario later always, because if we think business scenario first, maybe sometimes we cannot develop the technical scenario later. So in my experience, developing the technical scenario first is easier, and then think about the business scenario later. And also developing the business scenario is like we really need to have like a good understanding of the corporate business operation and understanding of the technical scenario itself. And so what will happening after the technical scenario runs? What will be happening in the real world? Who will say what and who respond how and what can be happening? So that kind of the imagination is really important to develop the business scenarios. So who will be involved, maybe internally, CEO, CIO, Chief Risk Officer, or maybe sales, PR, business people, marketing, legal compliance people may be involved into the incident handling, and maybe externally, maybe government, police, customers, media, business partners will be involved in to work on the incident investigation or incident handling matters. So that kind of the understanding how we communicate with external or internal stakeholders within the incident investigation is really important. So also what management teams people should learn from the exercise is also the important part when we design the business scenario. So then we made like how to design technical scenario and how to design business scenario and combine together and made them did several different test exercise, and then after our train the trainer sessions, we conducted actual exercise in each countries, Cambodia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, for making the participants of the trainer session people do the actual cyber range and tabletop hybrid exercise in each countries of themselves. So by doing these activities, I had several different challenges identified. So during conducting the trainer activities, I saw that some of the participants can become the readers of design the scenarios and also conduct exercise and also evaluate exercise or talk with the participants about what is effective, what is more needed. So, but it's really not easy to find someone who can lead the exercise. So growing the leader of the trainer is another important matter to think about. And also some of the participants didn't have enough technical understanding or technical skills and knowledges. So we sometimes we need one person who is good for handling the Windows matters. Another person need to go to more on the Linux side technical scenarios. Maybe there should be another person who can handle a network matters, like setting up routers, switches. So each of the different people will take the different roles, but we need someone who understands all of the exercise itself as a leader. And that is a kind of a difficult part from the expanding this kind of the exercise. And also we provide in this trainer session, we provided our original technical scenarios for participants so that they don't have to take time to create technical details because it takes time. And when we ask them if they can create new technical scenarios or not, it looks like it's kind of challenging for them to create new technical scenarios. So that is another aspect that we need to think how we can train people so that they can create new technical scenarios. And also there are a huge gap between technical and management skills. Management skill means someone who can imagine what will be happening in the business real world situation. So means someone who can create the business scenario. So someone who has really good technical understanding and technical skills, they usually do not understand what can be happening in real world, and they cannot develop the business scenarios. But if also on the other side, someone who who has a really good understanding of the business world matters. They don't have like a good technical understanding. So the gap between those technical matters and management matters, both side scale, is really there is a huge gap, and it's difficult to find someone who understands both sides of the issues. And also the sustainability matters, maintaining cyber range and retaining talent is another important part of keep doing this kind of activities. So this is always happening. And so it's really important to keep thinking how we expand the trainers for doing this kind of the hands-on exercise or tabletop business scenario exercise. So that's all of my presentation. Thank you very much. I think we have enough time to take questions from even for the previous sessions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So we are a bit ahead of time, so we have time for Q&A if you guys are interested. But before that, actually, there was a slide where Keisuke put a photo of his book. So maybe he can talk a little bit about it.
Actually, I wrote a book in Japanese language about talking about cybersecurity management, how is like a management aspect of the cybersecurity should be. And fortunately, one of my Vietnamese friend translated my book into Vietnamese language. This is a real book. So if you can read Vietnamese language, maybe you can find this book and read to understand management aspect of the cybersecurity. If you are interested, please come to me. I can show the book and you can quickly read. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Is there any question from the audience? Either to Kamata or the previous speaker, because we had to rush a little bit. Everyone is tired, exhausted. All right then. So that's it for our session. Thank you for attending the session, and thank you to all the speakers. Let's give everybody a round of applause, and hopefully we'll see you at the next conference. Thank you, everybody.